Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. Trinidad and Tobago continues to be a blessed space in terms of cultural offerings available on a regular basis. Now, Tenor Raguel Gabriel and the pianist Dr. Jeffrey Middleton, they are providing one such offering at the Central Bank on May 31, and it's the second edition of Night and Dreams, which showcases the musical bond that they began about a decade ago at the same space. They join us now.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being part of the conversation. And I want to ask though, 10 years ago, a decade ago is nothing to sneeze at. That performance at Central Bank. And let me start off with you, please, Raguel.
Sure.
What are some of those things, some of those factors that said, yeah, man, I can see myself doing more of this?
You mean from back then up to now?
Yes, thank you.
Well, back then I was really green. This was 2011, around there. Jeff was in the orchestra, and this was my first opera.
Was the orchestra.
Jeff was the orchestra, if you would say that. You know, classical music was just very different to me. It was the last genre that came into my life, sort of, and it really changed who I was. So as a person, as a human being, there was something about it that said, Raguel, follow this path. There was something in it. My voice was wanting to go into that direction, and I just followed it. And after that first opera, I mean, the same company continued doing things, and I had the opportunities to showcase my voice and my talent and work on it. And so, I mean, I'm still going, and here we are in 2025 now. With Jeff in particular, it feels like a kind of a full circle moment from Central Bank being the first stage that I was on with a classical piece like that, and to come back home now to do it, it feels really special, especially to have Jeff here with me, you know, as a different person, you know, fully trained, doing it way better than I used to, you know, and with all these studies that I put in and the years of work, it feels really special to be home.
And now let me ask that from you. Let me ask that from your perspective, please, Jeff, because sometimes we naturally would see different things from different perspectives. So how was it for you, being the orchestra at that time?
Well, I remember first hearing Raguel and thinking, oh, you know, hearing the voice, hearing the talent, and thinking, you know, you hear something like that and you think about where it could go, where it needs to go, what needs to happen. I've worked with a lot of singers, and it's not an easy process to, in other words, it takes more than a voice. It takes a lot of development of the voice and learning languages and learning repertoire. And Raguel was still, just showed so much potential. And I just thought I would really like to be working with him, taking him through some more of those steps to be a real artist.
And I want to drill down with you a little more, please, Jeff, because sometimes some people say that potential means that you're not really doing anything yet. And there are so many examples of individuals who can be described as cautionary tales because you're seeing that they're full to the brim with this potential and they can go in different places, but sometimes depending on whether or not, and it's nature and nurture. So if you are in an echo chamber where people telling them that you've arrived and you don't have that impetus to go forward, you're not listening to people, it seems as though Raguel is not in that category. So what are some of those things? Was he listening? How was he to work with? What was that process like?
Well, when you say that, it reminds me of the fact, and it applies to me too, that nobody wants to be told that they have potential. They all want to be told, oh, you're great now. And to be reminded by somebody that, or to be treated, or to have the attitude from somebody that you have potential makes it sound like you're not, you know, like you're a beginner. The point is, it's such a big field that nobody's complete, nobody's finished. And there's always, and potential doesn't stop and start. It's just how an individual can kind of approach such uh, a big field. So it's kind of a bad word to tell somebody they have potential, but you know what I mean. He just had a lot of promise, and I think the thing that is really one of the requirements is that you have to be, number one, kind of humble and also ambitious. You know, you can't think you know it all, and you have to work at moving forward. Sounds simple, but not everybody can do it or can live with it.
Yeah, simple doesn't always equate to easy. And
Right.
speaking of that, Raguel, humility,
Mhm.
ambition, how do you place that within the context of looking at a genre that resonates with you, but doesn't necessarily have as large a following as other types of music that would be in a space like this?
Yeah, particularly in Trinidad. We have our own culture here. We have the calypso and the things that's predominant. You know what I mean? So speaking about humility, I remember how I was. I was so hungry to learn everything. I never thought I knew anything at all. And with that, you keep moving forward. People actually start to come towards you. They see how hungry you are. You're hungry for the information, the desire to be better every day, which is something that drives me still. As Jeff was saying, there's no way you kind of reach, particularly with classical singing. You're never done. You're always working on something. It's your voice, the text, language, and just being an artist in general. You have to be humble. There's no kind of, oh, I am it. This is it. There's no way you are it. There are big operatic stars in the world. I watch interviews with them all the time, and you can see the hunger for knowledge is still there. They just came from a voice session with a coach today. Big stars still coaching, still working. And that's the beauty of the classical genre in particular. You never stop working. There's no time to stop working on your voice. Ambition comes with, because it's very competitive. It's about your voice. See, you got to be special. Let's keep it real. Something has to be special about it. You can just be okay, but you can't just be okay in a field like this. Something has to set you apart. With the tone. I mean, Jeff can speak more about this. He always speaks about what's the word that you usually, consistency in the voice. The tone of it. There has to be something special. So with the combination of humility and ambition, you use those and you just keep moving forward. No one wants to work with someone who thinks, you're a big star and you know everything. You don't know everything, particularly with anything in the arts in general: dance, acting, singing. Those three things you always need to kind of be like, what else can I learn today, to move forward in my area of passion. And so it's been a long journey. It's still going, and I'm still learning, but here we are, you
We'll
know.
talk a little more about that journey on the other side of the conversation. But Jeff, I want to
Right.
go to what Raguel would have been talking about in terms of like consistency of tone. What are some of the other things you look at? But even before you answer that, though, how much how much leeway do you have with a score? And I ask that because the score is the score is the score. I know some people you deviate by a fraction, and that's is you and them. And,
Trouble.
and when I talk about deviating, even like you break that note that you're not supposed to break to try to snatch a breath. What are
Yeah.
some of those things that you really look for and try to those are deal breakers, they're non-negotiables.
Well, you've opened up a big question with a lot of ways to go about talking about it. One of the things I think you could almost define musical education as getting close to understanding a composer's intention. What were they trying to do? What were they trying to express through the music? And how did they distill that into the score? So that's their way of telling you what they wanted. So you go and you have to kind of recreate that and recreate the process that the composer went through to be as true to that as possible. Now, having said that, some people can take that to the point of, not wanting to deviate one bit from what's written there. And that can be problematic, especially since, for instance, in opera, composers were changing their scores all the time, sometimes they would rewrite something for a singer, or something didn't work in a previous production. So they would there are lots of examples of multiple versions of famous scores. So even they didn't always take it that seriously. And yet there are some composers who are very particular and very exacting about what they wanted, and so the thing is, it depends. It depends on the composer you're talking about. It depends on the piece. But I think that for me, in my experience, yes, you can't ignore the score and you can't go against it, but you're going to be making it your own anyway. So there is a way to try to digest all the information and all of the material that you glean is been put in the score through that compositional process, and then to make the piece work, just to make it work to an audience. How do you recreate it and make it come alive so that people get it?
And what we're going to get to is a break, and we continue the conversation with pianist Dr. Jeffrey Middleton, as well as tenor Raguel Gabriel. Stay with us. We return after this. Welcome back. We are having a conversation. We didn't start to talk about Night and Dreams as yet, but it's taking place on the 31st of May. You don't want to miss it. And it features the combined efforts of tenor Raguel Gabriel, as well as the pianist Dr. Jeffrey Middleton. And one of the things that you spoke about, Mr. Gabriel, is that you said we don't really rehearse, we discover. What do you mean by that?
Well, I can speak to like when we work together. Usually Jeff would be the one to suggest music to me, particularly over the last few years. And it usually comes from something like a feeling that I have or something. And he's like, Raguel, I think you should check this out, check this song out, listen to this song, check this score out. And we just start singing it. And through the singing of them, we discover, okay, this is going to work for me. This works in my voice, whether on a technical side or a spiritual side. So it's really a discovery through music of what's going to work and what does not work. But it usually does work somehow with this gentleman right here, because he knows me so well by now. Everything that he's given to me has worked well. It's clicked, and I still sing them. And the process of discovering, what's inside of me, what's in the music, it really doesn't feel like we're rehearsing anything until obviously like a real rehearsal period. So let's say for Night and Dreams 2, there's a set, okay, we're rehearsing today, the full program, etc. But during those initial moments of receiving the music, when it's new and it's fresh, it's really just discovery until we get to that like serious rehearsal period. So discoveries are a really good word for it.
Okay. To that point, Jeff, how important is trust in a process like this?
Wow.
Well, you can't do anything without trusting, without trust to some degree. For Raguel, the singers all get a little neurotic because their entire world revolves around these two little muscles that are in their throat, and it's their health, it's the natural makeup of those characteristic of it, and then there's all of the other physical things that go into singing. So, and they kind of obsess over all that, but at some point they have to gradually factor in a trust element that they don't have to restart everything, and if they do certain things, that the voice will be there. I think that's trust is a bigger thing for singers. As a pianist,
Yeah.
you have to trust the music. That's for sure. That a lot of times, I think we fall into the trap of thinking, well, I have to make this work. I'm going to add this. I'm going to make it more expressive. You don't have to really, with really great music, you don't have to do anything. You trust the music. If you're playing Beethoven,
Oh wow.
comes through the music. You don't have to add your own feeling to it necessarily. It comes through the material.
And I've learned a lot about that trusting thing with certain songs too. That from experience, you can just sing a song even without trying anything. Just singing that song, and you can't imagine the effect it has, not just on you as the singer, but the effect the song has, even without adding any kind of emotion, with no intention. Sometimes I just show up and we just sing the song with just like a technical point of view, and it just works. Goosebumps everywhere, even without that kind of deep, the actor side coming in and the intention put into it. These songs, particularly with this program, they just work. Even if you decide to say, okay, I'm not going to put any feelings in it, you can just sing it raw as it is, and it's still powerful. So great are these composers that we chose. Very powerful music.
And to that, do you find yourself reaching for an intention or reaching for a moment after you've done it once, like to use the example of just singing to work out some of the technical aspects of it, and there's something spark and you say, okay, I like how I was feeling or what I was thinking about when I sang it like that, so I'm going to try to do it like that on the actual performance itself?
Well, from a technical standpoint, there are things you wanna set. Uh, but then, as just for you can have to let all of that go eventually anyway for the performance, because it has to be truthful. You can't say, okay, I plan to stay 10 seconds on this high note. You don't know in the moment what's gonna happen, or whatever. So besides the whole trust issue, there's a whole letting go of it anyway. But we do have plans that we make in the music.
Trusting it and kind of doing nothing, quote unquote, isn't the same as being done with the journey of the piece, because
Right.
I am very good at finding fault, finding little
He's
things.
very good.
And so he'll do something, but there's always something else to add
always.
to it. So no matter what you do, you've got all these details kind of swarming around that will find their place eventually, you hope.
Yeah.
We've had all this conversation, and we know it's on the 31st, but we have about 3 minutes. I want to ask what that repertoire is going to look like. You don't need to spill all the beans, and also how do people access the space on the 31st? So I guess we'll start with that first. Tickets and the like.
Yeah. Well, let's touch on the program first. So it's Night and Dreams 2. So the most blatant song there is Night and Dreams. There's a song by Franz Schubert called Nacht und Träume, which is Night and Dreams, which started the whole inspiration for this recital. So the other composers on there, we have Gustav Mahler, Ernest Chausson, Gabriel Fauré, Henry Duparc, Henry Purcell. I think that's about it. Anybody else in that list?
It's German, French, German. No, German, French. German, French.
French first.
Okay.
Then into German. Oh, yeah. German, French, English. And the theme runs through all of these songs. It's like this roller coaster. And to get your tickets, by the way, we're going to say tickets are available right now at my website, raguelgabriel.com. That's RAGUELGABRIEL.com. Digital tickets are online for $30 US. If you're old school and you say, you know what, I want physical tickets, I want to pay in cash Tomorrow you can come to the Central Bank Auditorium at the box office from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. for your physical tickets, $200 TT. We have a lovely event page on Facebook. You want to check it out. On Facebook, it's my name as well, at Raguel Gabriel. On Instagram, it's at Raguel T Gabriel. If you want to follow us more closely with everything we've been doing, publicity wise. And yeah, and I think that's about it. Everything's on the website. You get to see photos of the photo shoot we did in New York City, some lyrics from the songs if you want an inkling into the program, and everything about the two of us as well.
What we may not get on the website is the 20 seconds. I want to steal for each of you. What do you hope this helps to impact or influence with regard to the future of classical vocal performance in Trinidad and Tobago and a little further afield, but starting from here?
20 seconds. I would hope to inspire particularly anyone who has a desire to do it. Because I'm going back to this stage where I remember where I was green and wanting to do it. And hopefully I'm an example of don't give up, keep going, but keep working on your craft. That's the key. Keep working on it. Don't give up. And there are doors out there that you can go into. That's what I want to leave with today with Trinidad.
For me, I think what is special about this and what is good about the kind of music we do is that you listen with intent and you listen in a kind of a quiet way.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you, gentlemen, and one for working towards that, Raguel. And Jeff, I want to thank you for noticing the promise and working with the promise. We are talking about potential, right?
Not potential.
Dr. Jeffrey Middleton and the tenor Raguel Gabriel, thank you so much. And on behalf of the entire team, this has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant. Thank you so much for joining.